Hey, thanks for joining us again. Today we're going to discuss another important topic. Now, some people might not think these things are important, but for the all-around citizen defender, family defender, there are a lot of considerations. What we're going to talk about today is what we call the EDC Personal Security Toolkit. Now, if you're new to this game, EDC stands for Everyday Carry. Normally, when I say EDC, people in this game always think immediately assume I'm talking about a firearm. And I carry a firearm. I know there are a lot of people that do carry firearms for self-defense. There is nothing that equals a firearm for self-defense. The bottom line is when you need one, nothing else will do. So that's my reason for carrying that. And I'm former law enforcement. I've been carrying a gun since 1978. I plan to continue carrying one until I take my final breath. But others are not comfortable with firearms. Some just plain don't believe in firearms. But when it's time for one, there's nothing else that substitutes. But carrying a firearm also comes with a lot of rules and laws regarding when you can carry and when you can use. There are laws that even suggest or determine when you can pull your gun. In some states, like Tennessee, if you pull a firearm on another person, if you brandish that firearm, even if you're just trying to scare that person off, that's a felony. It's called aggravated assault. You've induced fear in that person's mind, even though he may have been getting ready to attack you. If you pull that thing out prematurely, you can go to jail for aggravated assault. So just be wary of that. And that's what some of these other tools will do, is they lead to the escalation of force. If the person hasn't committed an act which would justify the use of a firearm, or deadly force as we call it, then you're going to want to go with something lower, because you can defend yourself in almost any state, but you better be able to defend yourself in a manner that's going to incapacitate your attacker quickly. And going toe-to-toe with some big guy, I did it when I was a cop. I'm not sure I want to do it now. So we have another whole array of tools that we can and should carry with us in our everyday carry personal security toolkit. Let's start with number one, going back to firearms. If you do carry a firearm, the number one thing that you should be carrying in your everyday toolkit. Now let me back up just a little bit and explain to you this. This is not a bug out bag. This is not your SWAT operations bag. This is something, just tools that you can carry every day to protect yourself. So first of all, if you're carrying a firearm, you better be carrying spare ammunition. Now that should either be in a magazine if you're carrying a semi-automatic pistol, or in speed loaders if you're carrying a revolver. You want to be able to reload quickly if necessary. I know there are a lot of people out there, and I've trained a lot of people on firearms. I get these people out there with a 5-shot 38 special, and they're not carrying extra ammunition. And what they always say to me is, oh, gee, if I can't drop him in 5, I shouldn't be carrying a gun. Well, if you can drop him in 5, you're doing pretty good. The old, movie script where you pop one bullet in a guy and he drops dead, that doesn't work. That rarely works in the real world unless you get a really perfect, accurate shot. And we're not trying to kill. We're trying to stop aggression. So having just 5 rounds, what happens when you run out and the guy's still coming at you, or he's still attacking your family member or some other innocent person? What happens then? So that's number one in your toolkit. Extra ammo in a speed loader for revolvers, or an extra loaded magazine if you're carrying a semi-automatic pistol. Number two is a less than lethal weapon. You may be the biggest, baddest, toughest guy in the world, but there's one guy out there, at least, that's bigger, badder, and tougher than you are. So we need a way to equalize things. And these are things that the law permits us to use in most states to defend ourselves. So the first one, and my first choice always, is going to be some type of chemical spray. I prefer pepper spray. Just so you know, we only carry Mace brand pepper spray. And the reason I carry Mace brand pepper spray is because I've been carrying Mace since 1975, when I first got a job as a security guard at a large mall outside of D.C. Mace was the chemical spray to carry at the time. They are still the chemical spray to carry. Now, there's a lot more on the market nowadays. They're not as good. Maybe some of them are. But I know this from my experience. Mace has never failed me. Some of the private label brands now, I've had 3 separate cans of private label pepper spray fail when I needed to use them. That's not good. I don't care how hot your pepper spray is. If it won't come out of the can, it's doing me no good. So I carry Mace. That's the brand I can depend on if I need it. And there's all kinds of different models of Mace. This one actually has pepper spray and a little bit of tear gas mixed in to kind of just boost the power a little bit. That's my number one choice because you don't have to be right up close on a guy to use it. You can hit a guy with this from 10 or 12 feet away, maybe 8 feet away. That's still better than having him in your face. And this is more effective and longer lasting than anything else in here. But we're going to go through that anyway. So in your non-lethal or less than lethal toolbox, pepper spray is my number one recommendation. Don't buy the private label brands. I'm just telling you. Number 2 that I like is a stun gun. Now, a lot of people laugh at these stun guns. I've sold a lot of these things, and I actually had a girl come up to me one time who had been out Christmas shopping. As she's walking to her car, she's carrying her stun gun in her hand. You know, nobody sees it. It's just there. Suddenly, a guy steps out from between 2 cars and approaches her and grabs her. She fired up the stun gun, hit him right in the chest with it. He turned and ran. He didn't want anything else to do with her. So they do work. So stun guns or tasers, some kind of electronic control device. They work. They're effective. They're temporary, where the pepper spray will put a guy out for 15 to 45 minutes. The stun gun's only going to last a couple seconds, maybe a minute or 2 at the most. The whole idea with these things is to do what you need to do and then run, escape. That's your number one goal. So a stun gun or a taser. I prefer the stun gun. The taser is too much like a gun if you go pulling that thing out. And I can't tell you how many videos I've seen on YouTube, and you can go look, where the police hit a guy with a taser and he just simply yanks the darts out and keeps on coming. So this one here, you can hold it against them as long as you can hold them close to you. So get some type of electronic control device. And I'm not saying you have to have all of these types of less than lethal weapons, but at least one, maybe 2 to carry around with you. The third type of less than lethal weapon is an impact weapon, such as the good old collapsible baton, or even what they call a sap or a blackjack. Now this one here has got 14 ounces of lead in the end of it. It's spring-loaded. This is a dangerous weapon. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't really care if some bad guy's doing something bad to me and trying to hurt me or kill me. If I crack his skull open with this thing, it's on him, not me. I'm just defending myself. But these are effective. The collapsible batons, we're going to have a class on these at some point. There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet that tells you how to use these things. Most of them are wrong. I'll tell you right now, most of them are wrong. But you don't want to be carrying an impact weapon without some kind of training. And in some states, that's the law. In other states, it's not. But this can easily be taken away from you if you don't know what you're doing with it. Then what are you left with? Either nothing or you've got to go to your firearm. So this is another less than lethal weapon that you can carry with you to get rid of an attacker. The third thing we're going to talk about is noisemakers. Now, there are 3 things a criminal doesn't want. Number 1, he does not want to be seen or identified. Number 2, he doesn't want to be captured. Number 3, he doesn't want to be injured or killed. So if we can get him seen or identified, then either 2 or 3, getting arrested or getting injured or killed is probably going to happen to him. So if we can make enough noise, draw enough attention to that person to get him to not want anything else to do with you, to run off, a noisemaker is your best bet. You may not be able to scream. You may have a hand over your mouth or something like that. So there's these personal alarms out there on the market. They're very inexpensive. They're very loud. This one is 130 decibels. If I pull this pin or push this button, it's 130 decibels. It's going to attract attention if you're in an area where there are other people around. The other thing, and this is a real simple one, a good coach's whistle. It doesn't have to be expensive. These little plastic whistles that are, the good coach's whistles, they're very loud. Imagine a referee out on a football field. I don't care where you are in the stadium, you can hear that whistle when he blows it. So if you've got one of these just attached to your key as you're approaching your vehicle at night, and if someone comes up to you and starts doing something funky, you just put the whistle in your mouth and blow it as loud as you can. That's going to attract attention, much more actually than the personal alarm, because we hear alarms all the time anymore. Like car alarms go off in parking lots day and night, all day long. And we've gotten to the point where we don't even pay attention to them anymore. But if someone hears a screaming loud whistle, they're going to immediately look for that whistle. And as long as you can keep blowing it repeatedly over and over again, number one, hopefully you'll deafen the bad guy. And number two, you're going to attract attention and maybe get some help. And maybe at least someone with a cell phone picks up their phone and calls the police, rather than filming what's going on. So a noisemaker is the next thing on the list. Following that, I want you to go and get yourself a good knife. It doesn't have to be one of those expensive $300, $400, $500 knives. You can buy this one right here at O'Reilly Auto Parts for about $10 or $15, maybe $20. But this one, the reason I recommend, what I want you to have in a knife is not only a blade that locks back, because you don't want this if you have to defend yourself, and I don't really recommend defending yourself with a knife, but if you have to, you have to. But you don't want that blade folding closed on your hand if you do have to use it for self-defense. But the important thing about this knife is on this end, it has a glass breaker. So if you're in an accident, this little glass breaker tip right here, slammed against the window, is going to shatter the glass and you can get out of the vehicle. The other thing it has on it, on the same end on this one, is a seatbelt cutter. Sometimes you're not able to get to that release to get out of that seatbelt, or the person that you're trying to rescue from a vehicle, you can't get to their seatbelt. Maybe it's jammed and won't come undone. You just slide that seatbelt right up into this slot right here and pull, and it cuts the seatbelt and frees the victim. Grab you one of these. It's very inexpensive. Keep it in your vehicle. Keep it in your purse or your briefcase or whatever, but where you can get to it in an emergency. The next thing that I want you to have in your everyday toolkit is a good flashlight. That flashlight should be bright, preferably with a good rechargeable battery. An 18650 battery is the best kind. And you want a light with the switch on the tail cap, not on the side of the flashlight. If it's on the side of the flashlight, I'm not bashing anybody in particular, but there's a very famous brand out there that even a lot of cops carry. I didn't, but it's called a mag light. And mag light is a great light. It's almost indestructible. But if you're in the dark and you go picking up that flashlight and that switch is almost hidden on the side of that barrel, now you've got to spin that thing around in your hand and try to find the switch to turn it on. You don't have time for that. Time is either your best friend or your worst enemy. You want to be able to get to that switch as quickly as possible. So I grab my flashlight with the tail cap switch, boom, it's on. I don't have to go hunting for the switch. It's right there under my thumb. This one has rechargeable batteries. This is a stream light, by the way. I'm a firm believer in stream light. This is also a stream light. It's more like a little pen light. You can carry it in your pocket if you want to. It's got a pocket clip on it. So does the other one. It also has a tail cap switch. Okay? I don't have to go searching for the switch. As soon as I pick up that light, it's on. I'm good to go. The last thing that we're going to talk about today, obviously, is your cell phone. Carry your cell phone with you. I know a lot of people don't like to have their location services turned on, but if you're ever in a situation where the crap has literally hit the fan, you want your cell phone to have the location services on. Now, even one that doesn't have location services on, they can ping and find out a general area of where your phone is located just by the cell towers, as long as the phone is on. So it can be a flip phone. It doesn't have to have location services on. But make it easier for someone to find you in an emergency by having your location service signal on when you're out and about. So cell phone with a fully charged battery or a charger in the car where you can charge that thing up. You don't want to leave the house with a half-empty battery. If you need it and you go to dial 911 and your battery dies, you're screwed. So make sure you have a fully charged cell phone when you leave the house. And that really is all we're going to cover today. There's more. We'll cover these things in different videos. And in some future videos, I will go into detail on every one of the things that I've just shown you. So start stocking up. Make yourself a checklist of all the things that we recommend for your everyday carry personal survival kit. That's all we have for today. We'll see you next time. If you're watching this on YouTube and found this video helpful, hit that like button below. And feel free to share it with friends or family members who might benefit from watching it also. If you'd like to see more personal security videos, go ahead and click subscribe. It's free and it helps us to improve our search rankings. And don't forget, you can find us online and learn more about us at www.uspda.org.